imbalances. So that's something that I would want to investigate. But as far as dealing with weight loss, as far as, for example, for our economic challenges, etc., if everybody can't shop at Whole Foods, there's a lot of things that you can do to work with metabolism and work with diet that don't necessarily have to cost a whole lot of money. Like, for example, a lot of people go vegetarian, but they actually become carbitarian, for example. You all know what I'm talking about. So, I mean, the balance of, just to give you a mild example, the balance of protein and carbohydrates is super important. Most people don't eat enough vegetables. And, the general rule, if it was made by a plant, eat it. If it was made in a plant, avoid it. So, yeah. Eat less, move more. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to approach it, and I think for each person it's highly individual. And for each person, I think there's also a lot of psychology around it too, which, if we're going to treat people truly holistically, we need to treat their mental, emotional state and their spirit as well. So it's there's a lot of things we can do.
I would like to comment on everybody has a handout that I have it. And it was my idea, I told Dave to have it ready so that, everybody is probably new to the terminology. If you look at the Kapha constitution, those people have natural tendency towards obesity because of the particular elemental combination that they have, like earth and water. So, if I have to approach that question with Ayurvedic perspective, that's how we would define, like, not everybody is same. Everybody has their different constitution. If they have Kapha constitution, then they need to be more careful, and we need to balance that element through the food, that elemental imbalance. So they need to eat more from the other elements, and which are light in weight, and they have, the handout goes on describing the attributes, the food attributes. So you need to choose. I know it's a lot, and not everybody will get it today. I just wanted to, introduce it to you, this new concept. And you don't have to do much. It's just the same food. You just have to choose wisely. You just have to, okay, you are using this oil, so replace it with this oil. We don't recommend, like, go on a fat-free diet or go on a particular diet. It's just changing it and have more vegetables and eat warm and regularly, and not to eat when you're not hungry. So those are like simple guidelines. I even printed that. I have it in here. Like, what are the rules that we usually overlook, and what's the care that we should take? Like, avoid emotional eating and everything. So all those dietary rules that everybody would follow. We would get there. So, thank you.
Can someone define obesity real quick for me?
BMI over 25, but that's kind of too simplistic, I think, because there's some healthy people that just happen to be overweight. And then there's thin people who just happen to be thin and they're not healthy. So it's usually doesn't have to correlate, because 40%, 50% of heart attacks happen to people with normal cholesterol and normal weights. So you can't just say, oh, that person's healthy by looking at them, or that person's unhealthy by looking at them too. So it really depends on what's going on. But I'll just draw something here really quick. So you guys have heard of the Glycemic Index? So just in a nutshell, because people, all right, so here we go. Oh, so let's just say 100 grams of sugar. But sugar could be either the processed kind or the unprocessed kind. And what happens, let's just say, start off with how the sugar gets into the body. So it goes into the stomach, small intestine, gradually if it's the unprocessed. But if it's the processed that doesn't require any digestion at all, you're going to see a spike of sugar, and then it's going to come down pretty fast. So what does that have to do? Then that makes insulin so insulin in this case is going to go up gradually and it's going to come down gradually. But in this case, you're actually going to have, well, insulin will lag it, but it's going to go up a lot higher, stay up a lot higher, and come down like this. So if you look at the area under the curve in the first example versus the second example, you got a lot more insulin that just entered the body. And if you give anybody insulin, they're going to gain weight. Like, what happens to diabetics when we put them on insulin? They gain weight. It's pretty much the wrong, that's like the last thing, we give up kind of a thing. But now they're promoting it, actually. But anyways, that's I think the number one principle. Because if you increase insulin in the body, that promotes lipogenesis, so fat cell generation, and that's the number one reason why people are getting, the elephant in the room is the 20 teaspoons of sugar in that 20 ounce of soda. You know what I mean? I always ask my patients, if I had a jar of sugar and I told you to eat 20 teaspoons of sugar right now, would you do that? And they're like, heck no, doc, But I said, yeah, you probably think I'm trying to poison you. And they're like, yeah. So I said, what about when the Coca-Cola polar bear gives you that same 20 ounces? You take it. And you don't even think twice about it. Well, there's reasons for that, because there's acid in those drinks, so your mouth doesn't taste the sugar. But nonetheless, it's like you took 20 teaspoons of sugar. Never happened in the history of mankind. That's why we're seeing obesity in kids and adults, that never happened. And that's basically just from that. So you have to eat foods that don't have such a high glycemic index. And the only foods that don't have a high glycemic index are the unprocessed foods. So that's basically, yeah.
Like raw honey, molasses, what else, or what?
In moderation, because those actually are almost pure sugar. But it's got other nutrients and minerals that kind of modify it. It's much better than what high fructose corn syrup or even table sugar would have. But a little bit of 1 or 2 teaspoons, that's not the problem. It's the 20 teaspoons that's the problem. Yeah. And that little yogurt Yoplait that everybody thinks is so healthy and Dannon, there's almost 7 teaspoons of sugar in that little cup. And I always ask them, my patients, I said, if I gave you a little bit of plain yogurt, how many teaspoons would you put in there? They're like, 1 or 2. I'm like, yeah, but when you buy it, there's 7 in there. You know what I mean? So these are the things that people are doing instinctively with all that advertising without even realizing what's going on. So, yeah.
I want to mention that there's an addictive quality to this also. They did a study at Scripps Research Institute here in La Jolla about 2 years ago where they fed rats sugar and grease. And then after a while, that's all these rats would eat, with sugar and grease. Every other kind of food they just would not go near. And that's all they wanted was sugar and grease, and humans are not too far off from that.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone has ever seen, a little kid go hog wild at a birthday party and get all hyped up on sugar, kind of trip out. Yeah, sugar's kind of like crack. But just to follow what John was explaining with this glycemic index and whatnot, with your insulin spiking like that, that's enormously stressful on the body. And this is what contributes to prediabetes and diabetes. And their studies have shown that going on a whole foods diet, low glycemic index can prevent or reverse a pre-diabetic state. So I mean, just to reinforce the importance of how important this is. We think that it doesn't affect our bodies more than just making us a little jittery or whatever the reaction to sugar is, but this is what it's doing.
I think what needs to change is, globally, is the idea that people aren't going to change their diet. I think, we all say that, and this is our experience, that it's difficult to change people's diets. But I think that there has to be some kind of a consciousness shift where as a society, we believe that people need to change their diet, and they will change their diet. I have this is back when I was living in Cleveland. A friend of mine was the food editor of Cleveland Plain Dealer, and she interviewed Dean Ornish, the cardiologist, and then the head of cardiology